This episode is sponsored by Conjure Tea. This new year is bringing new tea, pastries, and a big sale. Conjure Tea is founded by Chef Shania Thomas Floyd, a pastry chef with a love for all things tea. Chef Shania uses her background to create exciting, unique teas like apple pie chai, a mix of black tea, chai spices, and Honeycrisp apples, and Dreamland, a sleepy tea featuring lavender, vanilla, and chamomile. We're all trying to figure out our resolutions for this year, and my resolution is to treat myself in 2023. And what better way to do that than with Conjure Tea's cookies, brownies, and coconut macarons? They can also make any of those vegan or gluten-free, so you can really try them all. I mentioned a big sale, and I wasn't kidding. For a limited time, you can receive 25% off your first purchase using promo code STEEP25 until January 8th on conjuretea.com. That's promo code STEEP25 to get 25% off your purchase through January 8th at conjuretea.com.
Their rugby team was playing New Zealand's team.
They're insane, right? The All Blacks.
Everybody's walking around with these shirts that say All Blacks. And I'm like, what the? I had no idea they were called the All Blacks until I had to ask.
Yeah, you're like, they're on BLM much earlier than everybody else. Like, this is good here. It's a Rishi tea. It's Earl Grey lavender. So you get the Earl Grey, you get some of the caffeine if you like it. And then you also get the lavender flavor to it. If you're steeping at home, 205, 4 minutes, Rishi Earl Grey lavender tea.
How do people know the temperature of the water?
This is embarrassing, but I'm going to tell you.
Please.
I have a specific thermometer that I used to use for when I make tea. So I would keep the thermometer in the water so I could actually see how hot the water was when I was putting it in. I know. It's a nerdy thing, but like once I started getting really into tea, I was far more interested in like, well, if they're telling me this is how I need to do it, which by the way, like kind of, yes, you could follow the rules, but at the same time, do things however you want to do them. You know, people who drink a lot of bag tea, they'll be like, someone says, leave the bag in, which is fine. This is a judgment-free tea zone. So, people can do what they do. But I started getting more into it. And I was like, I should know the temperatures. Mm-hmm. Now I have a tea kettle where you can set the exact temperature, which I like.
See, it's moments like that I wish I was white. Because such a...
Go on. I want to hear this. Yeah.
I grew up, I thought me just warming up, I have a water cooler, so sure. I use my water heat, the hot side, to do that. And I am the type of person that leaves the tea bags in there. Some people look at me like, oh my God, what is wrong with you? Because I do that, but I like it because it makes it stronger.
It does, for sure.
So I'm all about that. And I got into teas later in life because it was like the fancy thing to do.
So that feels so, people are like, I like tea. They go, yo, you're fancy. Mm-hmm. I'm like, no, I don't know about that.
It's kind of like me. I'm in a wine club and I know the different wines. I'm not great at it. I'm no sommelier or anything.
Yeah.
But truthfully, I was about to say just between me and you as we're on the podcast.
Between you and me and all of the steepers out there. Yeah.
I really don't like wine like that.
Like fancy wine?
I don't like red wines. I don't. Sure. I don't like, it's very woody tasting and all this other stuff. But I drink wine because it's like a great social conversation to have. And so even with teas, for me, when I talk about oolongs and lavenders and then people are like, oh, he's not just a regular tea drinker. He drinks. Oh, Willie knows about it. Willie's fancy. He likes lavender honey.
Well, I have to tell you. So for those out there that don't know, like I texted Willie and I was like, "What kind of tea do you like?" And when you said lavender honey, I go, "Oh, this is gonna be fun," because like people will write back and be like, "Oh, whatever." Mm-hmm. Which is fine. I don't mind that. And oftentimes I'll try and pick teas that represent people. But you sent that and I was like, oh, can't wait. So I want to go back a little bit. Mm-hmm. I do not remember the exact first time I saw you. But what I wanted to tell you, I want to compliment you, is I saw you do a set and you do this thing. Not a lot of people out there, or some people who listen probably see a lot of comedy, some don't. You just sat on the stool and just had a conversation with everybody in the room. in a way that like you wouldn't have realized. If you're a comic, you understood that there were jokes in there. But if you're not a comic, it felt so natural. And I just remember sitting there and I go, who is this guy? Like this was, because those rooms can be so tiring.
Yeah.
And then you like talked to us, not at us. And I go, oh, I love whoever this person is. And I came up awkwardly. I remember when I introduced myself to you and I was like, hi, I'm Josh and I really liked your set. Okay. But I absolutely loved it. And then I remember we talked for like 10 minutes and you go, yeah, I didn't start out doing comedy. I'm like, how did you get here?
Yeah.
Like, how did you start doing comedy that you're so relaxed? What was your path to that?
I came out here in 2004. Came out here chasing a female. She wanted to be a model.
Oh, gosh.
She was a model in St. Louis, and she modeled all the fashion shows, runway shows, and all of that. And she's like, I want to be a big model in LA. I was like, chill out. No one from St. Louis leaves St. Louis.
Oh, stop that.
I mean, very few.
Yeah.
I mean, to think about not just leaving St. Louis, but to go from St. Louis to Los Angeles as 18-year-olds. It's like...
At 18?
Yeah.
I would have been scared.
I was terrified.
Yeah.
I was sheltered growing up. I was a preacher's kid. I wasn't able to go like trick-or-treating. I didn't get to go to birthday parties. I didn't go to a lot of like social events. I worked at Burger King. I lied to my parents and told them that I had to work at Burger King from 4 p.m. to 1 a.m. because that was my usual shift in order to go to prom.
Are you kidding?
So, yeah. And that's where I knocked up my son's mom at prom. And I got caught because my dad...
Because you have a child. That's probably that's how you got caught.
That's how I got caught.
This
but
kid.
He apparently... something in his spirit told him that I wasn't really at work.
No.
So he went to Burger King that night, asked for me. And they're like, Willie doesn't work today.
No.
Yeah. So she ends up like, we're going to leave. I was like, I came out here chasing her. So I was in order to live out here, I was going to school just so I could have a housing.
Okay.
So while in housing, I ended up needing money. So I went on Craigslist and I found background work.
Sure.
So I did background work on the Bernie Mac show.
That was a great show.
So my screensaver is me and Bernie Mac. It's a picture of Bernie Mac.
Oh, yeah, if you're watching, he's standing next to a framed photo of Bernie Mac.
So I do background work. I was only supposed to do 1 day of background work.
Sure.
If you don't know who Bernie Mac is, go play in traffic. Like he's the GOAT to me.
Sure.
So as I'm on set, I was only supposed to work 1 day. It ended up being 6 days because he was really sick. So he would only come for like an hour, whatever. It was during like his darker years of like health.
Yeah.
And so the person that played Bernie Mac's wife, she was like, where are you from? Because I used to have this really big afro back in the day.
I think I've seen pictures.
Huge, stupid afro.
I thought it looked good, but yeah, go ahead.
I thought it looked good too.
Yeah.
But she was like, where are you from? You look super country.
Oh, God.
So I was like, St. Louis. She's like, really? My assistant's from St. Louis. Find out we going to the same high school, graduated different years.
Yeah.
And Bernie Mac comes out and he's like, who's this melted milk dud y'all talking to?
I'm sorry. He called you a melted milk dud?
He called me a melted milk dud.
Dear Lord.
Everybody started dying. And then as I talked to him over the next few days, he was one of the coolest people that I've ever met. For someone like a Bernie Mac to talk to a background actor like myself, I was like, whatever it is this guy does, I want to learn how to do.
No way.
So I started watching more comedy because first comedy I've watched secretly in St. Louis. I don't know how I watched it, but it was Russell Peters. But I didn't understand the power of comedy, the money behind comedy. I just was like, me growing up, because I got in trouble a lot because I was goofy.
Sure.
But they called it the devil. They're like, stop acting up. The devil, something's wrong with you. It was always something wrong with you because I was always acting up. I remember one of the first things I did as a kid, this is probably like 3rd grade. I used to act like my hand was alive. So I would do stuff like this. I'd be like, no, don't do that. My hand would be moving across the desk. I'm like, chill out. The teacher's saying you're going to get in trouble. And I'd be like, stop it. And I'll fight my hand in front. And just to make people. That's a good bit. Yeah, it was a decent, especially in 3rd grade. So I would do things like that to get a laugh.
Yeah.
And it was called acting up. You do that again, blah, 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 blah. Instead of exploring, like, maybe he's really a creative and we need to.
Yeah, maybe we should foster it.
So then I found out that Bernie Mac, as we were talking, Bernie Mac wasn't his real name. His real name is Bernard McCullen. my real name's not Willie Macc. My real name is William McMiller. And I was like, we can change our names?
Okay, yeah.
And so I ended up, as an ode to Bernie Mac, turned my name to Willie Macc and added an extra C.
Oh my God, I never put that together.
Yeah.
I feel so dumb that I've known you for as long as I have, and I never put this together. This feels very silly.
So as I started watching more stand-up, I was like, this vibe that me and you have right now, as we're sitting, I want to have this same conversation, this same feel with the entire audience. Y'all sitting down, I'm going to sit down with you all. I don't need to sit here and be the most powerful guy on the stage. I mean, yeah, I do stand up some of the time. But a lot of times I sit down and I've had people come up to me after shows like, I didn't know if I could talk to you or not, but I felt like I wanted to have a conversation with you the entire time.
There's not a better compliment, I don't think.
Bernie Mac talked a lot about the kid that he was raising and just like black families and all this other stuff. So I was like, let me figure out how to talk about my son, my son's mom, and my family and this crazy dynamic of everything that's going on in the world and my viewpoint of it. But I'm going to sit down so I can have a conversation with you so you can ingest it a little bit easier.
Clearly it worked because exactly what you're talking about, I saw you and I felt spoken with, not spoken at. And I can't really explain it. For people who don't see stand-up a lot, that does not sound novel, but it is.
Yeah.
Because there are a lot of people that get on stage and are just like, I don't know, it feels almost like I'm being, sometimes, this is super dramatic, sometimes it feels like I'm being like attacked with jokes. I'm like, versus the people, like there's another person who hopefully we'll have her on at some point. But you know Liz Glazer.
Yeah.
Liz Glazer is another example of someone who the first time I saw her, I felt like she was having a conversation with me.
Yeah.
It's powerful. It's important. And the first time this isn't the first time I saw you, but one of the times I saw you, and I'll never forget this because I laughed so hard, was you in the middle of your joke, look at us and go, do y'all like where this is going? And I just thought it was I was like, oh my God. I just couldn't stop laughing because I was like, yeah. I was like, thanks for checking in. Like, that was good. That was funny. Thank you. But I was like, yes, absolutely. But no one does that. Everyone is like, if I'm not 100% polished, then all hell's going to break loose.
Yeah. I don't care enough.
Yeah.
It's not even that I don't care because I do care, but it's also I learned to just say, F it. This is just my style because the way I'm also writing my bits is a mixture of what I learned from improv of if this is true, then what else is true?
100%.
With, can you all relate to this? Because if you all don't relate to this, then for my style, I don't want to tell this joke. I want you all to either feel me, understand me, agree with me. Maybe you even disagree with me. And if you disagree with me, tell me while I'm on stage.
You want people to interrupt and tell you?
They interrupt me all the time. And I'll tell when I have enough time. I'm like, if y'all want to turn this into a conversation, just raise. I don't mind y'all heckling me. Make sure it's not ignorance.
Yeah.
Let it come from a place of understanding. Like when I talk about me and my son's mom, and I had to remind the audience, and I'll tell them like, we were 16 years old when we was about to become parents. So we were scared. So we went to the abortion clinic.
Sure.
Which automatically either tightens some asses up or they're like, or is he going with this? And I'm like, this is a true story.
Yeah.
We went to the abortion clinic. We slid it to the receptionist like, hey, we gave them $300. They were like, it's $350. So like we were $50 short. And I remind my son of this all the time. And I'll give some examples and it loosens people up a little bit. I'm like, now what would y'all have done at 16? You're scared. I use what I call the puppet voice. Like puppets in cartoons, you can get away with so much stuff as puppets in cartoons because they're not real. And you can make them say things that are really messed up, but they're puppets. Who gets mad at, why'd you make this alien puppet cartoon say such things? But if it was a real person, it's like, oh, that's your real viewpoint, even though this person's real viewpoint might be this. When you see me on stage, I'm the writer, producer, and director. Of my own stuff. So if you want to talk about it, let's talk about it right here because I don't really want to talk about this after the show.
but you don't feel like it interrupts the flow of what you're doing?
I already know where I'm going. I know there's very few times that I don't know where people are going to go with it.
There are certain comics, and this is no judgment, but there are certain comics who will dictate when you can laugh and when you can't laugh, which is fine. I am not that comic. So if I'm up there, I will always try and make sure I'm giving people permission to laugh. I'm not going to dictate when you can laugh. And if I catch that you're laughing at a point where I didn't think it, I will try and find a way to make sure it's all good. You can laugh. You can laugh here. But I like that idea of the puppet voice because it's kind of like it's building empathy. So they know they can relate to you a little better. I like that a lot.
Because it is one of those things. I was writing a sketch because I've done like 50 national commercials.
Dear heavens.
That's how I was able to buy my real estate. I was turning down this one commercial. My only reason I accepted it was, I'm going to tell you what it was, is because my boy was like, you have to do this as a comedian. So KFC, or was it Wendy's? One of them, Wendy's maybe, came out with a fried chicken scented face mask during the pandemic.
That can't be true.
It's a very true one. Yeah. And they casted me to, it was supposed to be like a blind test. I was blindfolded and I'm like, it smells chickeny. Is that fried? This. And I was like, man, I don't want to do that. I don't want to be that black guy. I'm like, Black Twitter will not let me live knowing that I'm doing a fried chicken scented.
Does your commercial agent say, hey, they want you to audition for this, and you read it and you go, I don't know about that?
It's more so things they either wanted me to, like a line that they threw at me or, hey, say it like this. And I know some directors, commercial directors that I know like personally that I might have worked with, and I'm like, you cope with giving me this line. They be like, I know, the client just wants to hear it. And I'm like, and I'll do it or whatever. But yeah.
Just to get it recorded so they can not choose it.
So they can not choose it.
Right.
But I've done it.
There's this interesting technique. I have a friend who is a TV writer, and he goes, when in doubt, you can always bay leaf. And I go, what? What does that mean? I never heard that expression. He goes, you get a note from the network. I'm making this up completely, but they're like, okay, Josh and Willie are having a conversation and Josh needs to go, good tea. The network says you do it. So you put it in the script, you submit it back. They say, great, it's here. You're all good. Then right before the shooting day, when you have to, like you send any rewrites to the director and scripty and whoever, you take that line right back out.
Yeah.
It's like a bay leaf in soup. You put it in for the seasoning and you take it right back out before anyone's eating it. And he's like, I have to do that all the time. I'd never heard that, but that's kind of like what you're saying, which is he throws a line at you, you say it, and then once the edit comes in, that bay leaf just gets pulled right out of there.
Yeah, I've heard what you're talking about, but I didn't hear it called the bay leaf.
I did not either.
You got a script that you give to the networks, and then you got the script that you actually shoot.
Yeah. Well, gosh, it's like the commercial stuff is harder because, and please correct me if I'm wrong, can you run to Silver Lake and then wait for an hour and then say, ooh, strawberries. Okay. And then you can leave. I'm like, no, I'm not going to drive an hour and a half to say, oh, strawberries. And like, can I put that on tape? And they're like, no.
The audition I did today was no lines. It was just me driving this Toyota.
I once heard an expression that I thought was so true, which is an actor's job is to audition and an occasional side benefit is getting a role.
Ooh.
And I was like, okay, all right.
I like that.
I like that a lot too. And sometimes I think about the fact that so for what you just said, it's a really good example of it's not always going to be super fun. It's not always going to be great, but it's your job to go in there and you show face and you get out. You've done 50 commercials. Do you have a favorite?
I'm going to answer this in a couple different ways. The highest paid one was my Residence Inn, so that makes it a favorite.
It's my favorite now. If it's your highest paid, it's my favorite.
I think I made $300,000 off that one spot.
Off one spot?
It ran for a few years.
You beat me to the punch. That was my question.
Yeah.
Okay, so it ran for, can I ask, I don't know if I'm allowed to ask this, so you can be like, hey, we have to keep moving on. Before or after, have you ever stayed at a Residence Inn?
Yeah, especially after.
Did you get free stays?
No.
Oh, come on. They could. Residence Inn. Throw the guy some free stays.
Come on.
Oh, my God.
Inn.
Okay, so you had stayed there. Okay, so that was your favorite / best supporting financially. And what other ones stick out to you?
I was the face of a brand in New Zealand called Pump Water. And I did 6 commercials. They flew me down to Australia.
This is now my favorite.
We shot it in Sydney, even though it was airing in New Zealand. I've never been out the country before. So this is the first time out the country. And I absolutely loved Australia. I was outside of the Aborigines, which we will not talk about. I was one of the only Black people that was in Sydney. And it wasn't one of those weird only black. Like I've been in like Branson, Missouri, where I was the only black, and it was uncomfortable.
Yeah, actually, very well. I went to school in Missouri, so I'm familiar. Yeah,
but in Australia, they looked at me like I was cool. They was like, "Hey, how's it going?" I was like, "Hey," and they were so friendly, like Bondi Beach and all this other stuff. And then their rugby team was playing New Zealand's team, and New Zealand's rugby team,
they're insane, right? The All Blacks.
So everybody's walking around with these shirts that say All Blacks. And I'm like, what the?
Oh, no.
And I'm like, y'all are too friendly here. I'm like, I don't know about what. I had no idea they were called the All Blacks until I had to ask. I'm like, why is everybody wearing these shirts that say All Blacks?
Yeah, you're like, they're on BLM much earlier than everybody else. Like, this is good here.
Calling all my friends. They support.
Yeah, they're like, who's welcome? They go, All Blacks. Get them all, everyone.
Yes.
Okay, so that was your second. Is there one more? Just to round out as a three.
My third favorite is probably, and only because I was there for such a short amount of time, Domino's Pizza. I did a Domino's Pizza spot, and I was on set for maybe 15 minutes and went home. They already had everything set up. I came in, I took a bite, 3 takes of me taking a bite out of some pizza. They were like, all right, you're wrapped. I was like, I'm wrapped?
I still got paid for this? That was it?
Made a decent check.
Yeah, were you like, this is no emos, but it's, It's,
emos!
Oh, there
Shout
you go.
out to emos. That's so funny. Oh, I miss emos.
Well, let's go to the first segment. Are you cool going to the first segment?
Let's do it.
The first segment's called the Newly Friend Game. It's like the Newlywed Game, but we're friends. Even though, honestly, if I were to marry another comic, you seem like a very good option.
I would be a great option.
I feel like, listen, you're a very nice person and you're also entrepreneurial.
Hey.
For the Newly Friend Game, I'm going to ask you a question. Don't tell me your answer. We're both going to write them down. We're going to see if we get the same answer.
All right.
Your question for the Newly Friend Game, if someone said, what is the one thing I need to do in St. Louis? Don't tell me, write your answer down. I'm going to write my answer down. I'm going to show my answer to Lucas, who I can guarantee is not going to agree with me. Okay, I'm going to circle mine. This is my answer. One thing you need to do in St. Louis. You have your answer written down? Flip your board on 3. 1, 2, 3. Show it to me. No.
Hey.
Oh, okay, so we didn't get it right. Willie said Eat Emos, which is that pizza place we were talking about. I said Ted Drew's, which is a frozen custard place that is absolutely incredible. Do you like Ted Drew's?
I like Ted Drew's a lot.
I just love the first time I went to Ted Drew's and they go, this is a concrete. I go, why is it a concrete? And then they flip it upside down and it doesn't come out. I go, that's pretty amazing. All of you who live there are like, yeah, dude. I was there like, what is he? Did he what? What did he just do?
Yeah.
It was, delicious. And the thing I love, this is the last thing I'll say, and we'll get to my question. The last thing I'll say about Ted Drew's, their seasonal flavors are so good. They do something called the Big Apple, which is an apple pie concrete, where they actually put apple pie into it. And they do the Great Pumpkin around Halloween, which is with pumpkin pie. And I think it is absolutely delicious.
They have a Ted Drew's vending machine at the St. Louis airport now.
So let me warn people about this. Okay, I need to warn people because if you go to Lambert, which by the way, St. Louis airport's my favorite airport in the United States. You can quote me on that. But if you go there and you get Ted Drew's there, people then go, it's okay. That's not the same. Because you can't get the concrete. You can't get the mix-ins. No. It's just a flavor.
Yeah, it's kind of like people that buy frozen White Castle burgers in the grocery store. And they're like, I'm like, what?
That's not the same. Okay. The question for me. Now, some people know this about you and some people don't. You did a reality show when you were younger and you were working on a potentially doing another reality show now. So the question for me, which I'm going to see if you can get this, there is a right answer here. My parents did a reality show. Now, I don't think you'll get the reality show, but what I'm going to throw at you instead is, knowing that my parents, at the time they did this, were probably in their 50s, what channel was the reality show that my parents did on? I will let you ask 1 or 2 questions if you want for hint purposes, but I cannot give you the answer.
Nah, I think I'm going to guess it.
Okay, I'm going to write it down, and I will tell you about it afterward. Okay, you ready? Flip your board on 3, 2, 1... Nick at Night. Oh, I wish. And HGTV. So he wrote Nick at Night and HGTV. We don't get any points. It was on TLC.
TLC.
I believe what I wrote down, I believe it was called Moving Up. Or it's called Moving Out. We're moving in.
What was it about?
I love how I just gave you 3 completely different options: moving up, in, or out. But the first word is moving. We were essentially house poor when I was growing up. So we lived in a much nicer neighborhood, but we, didn't really have a lot of money. They moved there so I could go to that high school. So as soon as I was going to be eligible to graduate, my parents were like, we're getting the hell out of this house and out of this neighborhood because these taxes are crazy and who's got the time and the money. So long and short, I don't know how they got in touch with these people. I really don't know much about this. Whoever got in touch with whoever with this reality show where you take 2 houses, you get the person moving from house A to house B, the family moving from wherever into house A, and the people moving out of house B. So it's 2 houses. You get the people moving in, moving over, and moving out. And my parents were not reality show types, but the reason they agreed to it is because the show paid for so much stuff, furniture and paint and roofing and all stuff. And so my parents were like, well, we got to do this. They're like, it's a deal. And I was like, all right. And then they were like, do you want to do this? It was my senior year of high school, and I had already gotten into college. And in my high school, we did something called senior options, which for 6 to 8 weeks, I don't really remember, you go get an internship or a job or something, and you're not going to class. And so I was working as a server at Applebee's while I was also playing. I used to be a musician. I was playing open mics in the city. And then I was, don't listen to this, and any police. I was getting drunk with my friends like most nights. So I'm waking up like hungover, and there are like a bunch of camera crews all over the house. And I'd be walking around in like my boxers, and they're like, hey, can you get out of the shot, guy? Seriously, or put clothes on. I was like, no, I'm good. And I would just like get a, like defrost a bagel or something and just mess around.
That's funny.
Yeah, but they were on that.
Yeah,
they did that. But that brings me to talking about you. So I don't know where, I believe it was called College Hill. Is that right?
College Hill.
Where does that fit into the story? Because you and this former model, you come out here at 18.
Yeah.
You're doing background work and you're studying. You then eventually become a comedian. Where does College Hill fit in all of this?
So moved out here in 2004.
Yeah.
Meet Bernie Mac in like 2005, early 2006 maybe. And then again, needing money, I went on Craigslist, and there was this, I did a reality show, another reality show that never aired. It was called So You Want to Date My Sister, Sistah.
I don't think that would get made today. Do you think it would?
It might.
Okay. I'm wrong. It might. Okay.
Where it was these 3 guys who wanted to date this sister of these like 2 brothers. And so they put you through all these challenges to see who would be the best guy to date their sister.
I feel like I would choose you. I mean, my sister's married, but if she weren't, I would be like aces with you dating her.
I won that thing.
That makes a lot of sense to me.
And it never happened. But the producers of that show were also the producers of College Hill. They were like, Willie, you're a really funny guy. And I wasn't even doing stand-up at this time. Like I said, I was always just goofy.
Yeah.
They was like, we want to be on this other reality show. I was like, yeah. They was like, if you can make my sister laugh, you'll be good to go. And the sister was Tracy Edmonds. Tracy Edmonds at the time just got divorced from Babyface. If you don't know who Babyface is.
Babyface Edmonds? Cool, yeah, absolutely.
Amazing songwriter, musician.
He's actually written, for those that don't know, like you can look this up. He's written a lot of songs you probably know, but you have no idea that he wrote it. And separately also had a great solo career.
Yeah.
He's very, anyway, sorry, go ahead.
So at this time, Tracy was engaged to Eddie Murphy. And I guess Eddie was coming out with Norbit around this time, maybe. And I kind of gave off Norbit vibes.
Oh, come on.
I actually, someone sent me a photo maybe a few days ago of Norbit, and I was like, man, that did kind of look like a version of me. The big fro, the glasses, and whatever, blah, blah, blah. So I ended up making the lab, and they ended up putting me on the show. So I was on College Hill, and we shot it in 2006, and it started airing in 2007.
Okay, so you're on this reality show. I feel like it must have been popular, right?
It was hugely successful.
That's amazing.
Our one season, not only were we successful on BET, we also ended up getting aired on MTV and VH1.
Holy cats.
And we were the first Black reality show.
That's amazing.
Before all the Love and Hip Hops and all the other Black reality housewives of blah, 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 it was College Hill. We were the first Black reality show. I remember one time I was in Atlanta on Peachtree Street. I was there for the Hip Hop Awards. I was there for 3.5 hours on this particular street because people was like, there's Willie. So people started coming. I was on people's phones signing autographs, and they was calling more people to come. I shut down Peachtree Street because it was Willie Macc. And it's crazy. I still get messages to this day of people that just like, oh my goodness, because they just now started playing again on Hulu. So now it's like all these people going through like these nostalgic. I'm gonna play you one message that I thought was really funny.
Is it audio?
It's an audio.
Oh my
message.
God. Listeners, get ready. This is an exclusive. I don't think.
This is an exclusive.
Okay, so I'm gonna be quick about it, but man, I've been watching you since College Hill, since Virgin Islands, man. You always been funny. You're hilarious. You're a very down to earth person. And I was watching College Hill on Hulu, and I said, "What happened to Willie? 'Cause Willie's so funny. Why, when I type up your name, you popped up on the Laugh Factory? Because I watch a lot of stand up comedy. So, man, Black man, more power to you, man, and keep on going, man. That's good to see. Keep on going."
So I get a lot of these messages
how
now.
lovely is that
was
message?
Such an amazing message, and I get multiple messages like this now. Now that it's on Hulu, so now people are like looking me back up.
I don't know that woman, but I have to say, it's so nice of you, woman in the ether, to send like a nice note like that, to reach out to someone. She doesn't owe you anything. She's not asking for anything either. She's reaching out saying, "Hey, I saw you when you were," I feel like it's a kid, right? Like in your early 20s, maybe. "I saw you when you were a kid, and I see you now. And you know what? Hey, I'm proud of you."
Dang, that's something. When I had to record that, like screen grab and record it, because that's something that I listen back. I mean, it's only like a 2-week-old message, but now I listen back, like when I'm having, like, as comedians, we have a lot of down days and just like, what are we doing? Even as much as I am performing and all this other stuff, I mean, I suffer from depression.
Yeah.
So hearing messages like this puts like that tear down my eye, and I'm like, this is why I'm doing what I do.
So I want to say it was 2 or 3 weeks ago. It might have been a little longer. You posted an Instagram post, and the post was a lot about backslides that happen as a comedian. You think you're making progress in one area, and then maybe you don't get the deal you want, or you don't get the show that you made a pilot. It doesn't get picked up. And even in a smaller scale, you contact a booker because people are like, "Hey, they're going to love you," and then you don't get a response. Whatever it is, but you posted a post all about how comedy is always going to be uphill. It's always going to be a fight, and if you're racking up L's, you're not alone, because a lot of us do. And I was having a very bad day, when I saw this, and I had been in the middle of a negotiation of something that I pulled out of, and I felt really down, and it was just like having a really rough day. And I read this post from you on a medium where I don't think I'm speaking out of turn to say a lot of people are not very honest or on Instagram. It's all like, this is my life, but that's not their life.
Yeah.
And I read this post. I mean, this is it's the same thing I said to you before. It felt like you were having a conversation with me. And I know you were posting it for everyone, but it felt, and I don't usually comment on Instagram. I don't look a ton on Instagram as much as I used to, unless people send me a message. But I remember I specifically commented on it because I said, "Hey, I'm in your corner and I'm cheering you on," because I am. Genuinely, and hopefully I really am always cheering you on. But it goes back to who you are as a person, where you have a unique ability to make people feel seen. That woman clearly felt seen by you. And I obviously, because I remember that Instagram post and talk to me about it now, I felt seen by you. And that, like, what an amazing quality to have.
Yeah.
Like, what an amazing, and she's watching you when you were, what did we say, 20?
Oh my God, I was like 21, yeah.
So, okay, before we get into it, I feel like we should get to our second segment. All right, let's jump into our second segment.
Yeah.
Our second segment is called Teach Me Something. Pretty much everyone I've ever met tells me I have a lot to learn. So I try and use this segment to do that. You can teach me anything you want. It can take 10 seconds. It can take 10 minutes, preferably not 10 minutes, because I don't have the attention span for that.
Yeah.
What do you have for us today?
So a couple things that I've learned in my travels. I did a show out in Utah, Mormon country.
Oh, yeah, sure.
I always had this idea of what Mormons were and how they accumulated so many wives. Because I used to think that these Mormons, how much about Mormon culture do you know? Because I might not be teaching you anything.
This is embarrassing. I only know really from the Book of Mormon, the show. So I know about like Joseph Smith and how he found the tablets and blah, blah, blah in his backyard or something. But I learned it all from Book of Mormon.
Okay. So I used to think that they had all these wives because the guy was like, "Hey, girl, you want to be one of the..." I thought they hollered at all these women.
That's what I thought. That's not
They don't.
right.
So they have a prophet who assigns the wives to them. There was a prophet named Warren Jeffs. He had a huge community in Hilldale, Utah. Well, let me not mix them up. There's a difference between Latter-day Saints, and then there was the fundamental Latter-day Saints.
I mean, listen, you're way out of my zone already.
So Warren Jeffs went to jail for life now because apparently he was taking bribes from people. It was like, "Hey, say that chick over there, God told you that she should marry me." He was making millions taking these bribes from different guys to assign these women to that particular dude. So once he gets caught, they was like, man, everything we've been taught was a lie. And I asked one of the sister wives, I'm like, can I talk to you all after the show? Because I just got questions. They're like, all right, cool. What do you want to know? I'm like, where are all the black polygamists at? This seems like a cool deal. I'm like, give me about 6 wives, blah, 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 blah. They was like, well, it is a sin to be black.
Wait, what now? Well, hold on. What?
It is a sin to be black. In the King James version of when Cain killed Abel, it says, when Cain killed Abel, God marked his skin. That's what it says. In their Bible, it says, when Cain killed Abel, God darkened his skin. So all black people are descendants from Cain and are descendants of sin. And apparently, if we act right, when we come back or whatever, like when we die, we will be white.
That can't be. That's okay. So I don't want to make a blanket statement here, but if you are someone who observes the book as a Mormon, you are walking around believing that it's a sin to be black?
It is a sin to be black.
So does a black Mormon? Yeah, you're like, wait a minute. So does a black observant Mormon exist?
I don't really know the answer to that part, but that's what I was taught. So then let me tell you how cold they are. So while I'm there, they're near this area like Mount Zion, and it's a beautiful scenery, but all the homes there had no like some of the homes didn't have siding on it. Some of them was like missing shingles on the roof. Okay. Some of them was missing windows. And I was like, man, I'm about to invest here. I'm gonna buy me one of these properties because it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful. And so they was like, no. First of all, they're not gonna sell it to you. But that's besides the point. Here's where the genius comes in. It's like they do that on purpose. I'm like, what? They don't have to pay property taxes on an unfinished home. So they will leave these homes unfinished for years on purpose just so they don't have to pay property taxes. So they leave some of the shingles off. They'll leave some of the siding off. They'll leave little pieces missing or exposed on purpose. Or they're always adding an addition to the house so they don't have to pay property taxes. And then I found out that these wives ain't really wives. Only one of them is a real wife. The other ones are just assigned as wives, and them being a wife is just like a term. They're not all legally married. Only one of them are legally married, because if they were all married, they wouldn't be able to get like government assistance, WIC, unemployment, and all of that. So each wife gets a separate government check, a separate like food stamp, a separate blah, 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 and they are collecting bank.
This is not the point of what you're saying at all. I have to ask, I'm curious. Does the husband sleep with all of the women?
So that was another question.
God, I'm learning so much. This is fascinating. We're changing this. It's no longer Sleep Conversations. It's Mormon Chat.
I'm glad you asked it, because that is the third part of this whole thing. It was the taxes, sin to be black, and a lot of these guys don't even want all these wives. And I always was thinking that too. As cool as it sounds to have 6 wives, I'm like, that seems like a lot of work to have 6, 7, 8, however many wives.
I thought it was like 3.
What? No.
I think it was like, I think there was a show called Big Love. I think it was 3, but what do I know? Okay, wait. So it's like 6, 7, 8 wives. And so to balance the emotional needs and wants and spiritual and physical needs and wants of 7 or 8 different people, I would lose my mind. Right now, I am stressed. I am not in that situation. And you even talk about this. I think I'm like sweating in places I don't even sweat. I'm sweating in the front of my knees. I don't think I have sweat glands there. I am so anxious at the thought of that. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Okay, because I know we're in the final stretch of the podcast, I do want to get to just a couple more things, and I know we've already used so much of your time. You do millions of things, and one of the other things that you do is real estate.
Yeah.
So you're doing all these commercials, 50 different national commercials. You do comedy. You did 2 different reality shows, and you're also doing real estate. I want to say with your brother.
Yeah.
How did you get into that? Because you seem like you are doing so much, but then you were like, let me do another thing.
I had all this huge success. I was on College Hill. I was friends with Jermaine Dupri. I was at the BET Awards. Beyonce comes up to our cast and like, oh my goodness, we watch you on the tour bus. I was at the Fox Hills Mall, and this big black guy, maybe 6'7", 350 pounds, comes up to me, Willie Macc. I'm like, yeah. He is like, man, Lil Jon watches you all the time on the tour bus. He loves you, man. I was like, Lil Jon. He's like, yeah. I was like, are you saying yeah? Are you saying yeah?
Yeah, I was about to say, yeah.
And he's like, I'm his personal, he's one of his bodyguards. He's like, I had all this success, Josh. We got paid $950 for the entire season.
Wait, no.
We got paid $950 for the entire season of College Hill.
That's insane.
They make millions off of us over the years. We were in this weird transition period where College Hill was bought by Viacom. Only season 4 is on Hulu. Only season 4 is on Paramount Plus. Only season 4 is the only one that plays in like a lot of different countries outside of the United States.
And that's your season.
That was my season. So I was working a regular job. I worked at a place that sold natural supplements online. That was my job. I was famous and working a 9 to 5, which I ended up getting fired for. And as the years go by, this is now 2014, I broke up with the girl that I was dating at the time, and I ended up being homeless.
No.
Yeah, I ended up being homeless in 2014. I had nowhere to go. My little brother just moved out here, the one that I flip homes with.
Yeah.
He was living in Bellflower, which is super far. And I had to call him up. I was like, John, I've been couch surfing. Is it cool if I sleep on your floor? So I was sleeping on my little brother's floor. And I was like, man, if I ever get money again, I do not want to be in this position where I'm couch surfing and sleeping on my brother's floor, blah, 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 blah. And I ended up being offered a job in Burbank. Now, I did not have a car. This is my TV editor job. So I stopped doing stand-up from 2011 all the way until 2014. Because the woman that I was dating, she was like the super jealous type. What time will you be home? It's 11 o'clock. You mean you're still at the comedy club? She didn't understand what it took to be a comic and me being the relationship first type of guy at the time. I was like, oh, well, I just won't do stand-up because I want to save this relationship.
Mm-hmm.
So after a point, I was like, I can't do this anymore. We break up. I had nowhere to go because I was living with her. It's couch surfing, sleep on my brother's couch. I didn't have a car. I had all my money in a tin can at this particular time. And so in order to get to this job that I lied that I knew how to edit on Avid, which I did not, and I learned Avid while working at this job. I had to ride my bike 2 miles to the train station, catch the green line to the blue line, catch the red line to whatever, and ride my bike to the job. And I did that for 3.5, 4 hours each way every day. And so I was in like a really dark space at that moment. And I was like, if I ever get into this position again where I can get some money, just somehow I'm going to be smarter about it. So I ended up booking a Residence Inn commercial where I made a whole bunch of money.
Yes.
So my brother says, hey, I'm moving back to St. Louis. I was like, cool. He moves back to St. Louis. And now 2014 to 2016, the commercial's running, starting to do better. I'm accumulating some money. I'm getting back on my feet. So my brother says, what are you doing with the money that you made in all these commercials? Because this year, I did 5 Kia commercials, the Domino's, Residence Inn. I was bringing in about $30,000 a month on commercial money. And I was like, man, I got it stacked up in the bank, bro. He's like, that's so stupid. I was like, what do you mean? He's like, you should bring that money to St. Louis and let's start buying real estate. I was like, all right. So we started buying rental properties, and properties in St. Louis, they ain't much. You could buy a beat up property for about $30,000, put another $30,000, $40,000 into it. You either flip it or you rent it out. As we bought our first few properties, you've seen on like Facebook where it's like, come to our masterclass. We'll teach you how to be the best real estate mogul in all the world. So I used to go to all the free ones until they try to upsell you and be like, for $60,000, I'll personally mentor you. And so I would do all the free ones. And then as I learned the stuff on the free ones, I would take notes. And then I would go on YouTube and I learned more about real estate investing and how to acquire properties and tax liens and blah, 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 blah. So that accumulated, and me being just the goofy person I am, every time we bought a property, I would go back home and I would film it. Just, social media clout type stuff. So I'm like, yeah, we bought us another property. Here's what it was. And I would throw them up on YouTube and on Instagram. And then production companies started taking note of it. They'd be like, HGTV doesn't have any black shows. So we've been pitched to HGTV 4 different times since 2016. And then 2020, after all the Black Lives Matter stuff, they was like, all right, we got to take this serious. So they was like, where are those brothers at that keep being pitched to us? So they end up signing us. I showed them the sizzle that I edited, and they created the show around my sizzle. I was able to sell my pilot to HGTV. And that's how I ended up on HGTV, ended up in real estate from being homeless in 2013, 2014.
If that isn't a story that gets people off their butt, to me, there is no greater story of resilience that I have heard maybe in the past, I don't even know how long, than what you just described. Anyone who is listening that is feeling down, like you just told a story about how you turned your entire life around to be what you wanted it to be. And by the way, I hope it's not lost on people listening that you managed to, number one, you got a job where you didn't know the thing, but you were determined to learn it. You also, while you had this job, you were doing commercials. And also, while you're doing both of these things, or maybe you left that job, you're still doing all these commercials, you're still doing comedy, then you also took the time, I don't know when, you must not sleep, but you took the time to learn all about real estate. Mm-hmm. And you learned all about this, and you're attending seminars and doing all this. Like, I'm sure there are many stories like this that people know, but if this isn't in the upper echelon of stories of someone who made their life in the way they visioned it and the way they wanted it to be, I don't know what is.
And that's even just the surface, Josh. And in between all this story, I ended up losing my bottom row of teeth.
Whoa!
Yeah.
Y'all didn't see this, but you just were able to pop them out. That was so cool.
I wear dentures. My bottom row of teeth are fake. And that was due to my cousin who got caught up on drugs out here and got into a really big fight with him, and he punched my teeth out. I whooped his ass, but since I lost my teeth, I look like I lost the fight. But people ask me, some people that really know me, they're like, Willie, you can afford to get your teeth fixed. Why won't you? And I was like, because I wrote a joke around it, and I refuse to get my teeth fixed until I take this joke onto TV.
Oh, my Lord. This isn't embarrassing. People are going to hate that I say this on the podcast, but I'm going to tell you the real honest truth. I have a joke about not having seen the movie Schindler's List, and multiple people have been like, you should just watch it. I go, but that joke, I just don't want to lose that joke. And I'm not going to lie. Not going to lie.
We're true comics.
Yeah, I was like, I'm not going to lie about it. So I just can't see. And they go, you're aware it's one of the best movies of all time. I go, heard that.
Yeah.
Heard it. I can't watch it, but I've heard it. I was like, until I get that joke somewhere, I will not ever watch that movie. And I remember my buddy at one point goes, I will film you doing that joke. You tell it right to me right now. I'll put it up anywhere. I go, I didn't realize you had a late night show.
Oh.
Are you Conan? And he was like, no. I was like, then that's a no-no for me.
That's a no for me.
Yeah. All right. Are you ready for the third and final segment?
Let's do it.
Let's jump into it. It's called the lightning round. It means it's fast questions. It does not have to be fast answers. We can have a conversation after each one if that's what you want to do. I like having it on an index card. It makes me feel like a late night talk show host. First question, what is a favorite ritual of yours? Like mine is brewing tea. What is a favorite ritual of yours?
It's not a favorite, but I have a ritual. I have really bad stage fright.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my God. I shit myself before I go on stage every time. So before I go on stage, I end up crying. Really? I will cry, no matter how big or small the audience is. I will go in the corner, and I'll cry a little bit. I'm like, you could do it, Willie Macc, and I'll end up having a motivational moment because I ended up Googling celebrities with stage fright. I'm like, there's no way I can be the only person with stage fright. And I would read like Tina Turner would throw up before she would go on stage, or all these celebrities that have really bad stage fright and how they deal with it. So I have a routine. But before I go on stage, I will tear up and I'll give myself, tell it's okay. And I'm like, you're going to bring that stage fright on stage with you. You're going to tell him to just sit in the corner. And then when you get on stage, you'll be Willie Macc. And then when you get off stage, you're like, all right, good job. Let's get out of here. So that's kind of a routine in a sense that I have.
Did you do that at the jump off?
Probably. Every show.
Well, for the listeners that don't know, I run a show in LA called The Jump Off, and I had Willie on because he's so good. And I did not know that.
Yeah.
Question 2, what is a running bit with a friend or partner that makes you laugh?
Oh, that's funny. A running bit. So me and my boy Danny have a running bit. It's dark though, but so just run with me on this. We always have this thing where we give each other code names when we were like in relationships or we with a female, and we like, cause guys will just call each other and be like, hey, what's up, man? And sometimes the woman, there might be a chick there or whatever, and he might, man, remember last night with all those females? And you be like, Rrr. So we give each other code names. So like, we're with a female, we'll say this name of like, hey, what's up, plums? And he'll be like, oh, he's with someone. Or he'd be like, what's up, Mac boys? I'm like, what's up, man? And what that means that I know that he's with somebody. So hopefully none of the females hear this podcast.
I mean, listen, I'm in a very happy relationship, but if I'm ever not, we're going to start doing that. I want in on that. Question 3, can you do an impression of one or both of your parents?
No, I can't. It's not good impressions.
Well, no, it doesn't have to be good.
Okay.
In fact, if it's bad, it's probably better.
So my mom sings a song to us. She'd be like, my Mac boys, where are my Mac boys, my Mac boys? And all of us have Mac boys tatted on our arms. And my license plate on my Camaro, I got my Prius right now, but my Camaro says Mac boys.
How many brothers are there?
There's 5 of us all together.
You have 4 brothers?
4 brothers.
I did not know that. Are they all as charismatic as you?
It was one of those things I asked my mom maybe a month ago. I was like, how you have 5 boys, all from the same house, same parents, and we're all extremely different.
Oh.
Extremely night and day different. Yeah, no, we're different, but when we're together, we're like the perfect group.
Where do you fall in the 5?
I'm the oldest.
The oldest. That makes sense. You give me that 5. Question 4. Have you ever experienced imposter syndrome? And if so, is there a specific moment that you think of?
What is imposter syndrome?
Doubting your abilities, feeling like a fraud, like you haven't earned something, you don't belong.
All the time. Oh my God. Like I said, every time I go on, before I go on stage, I doubt myself. I sit there like, what are you doing, Willie? Because it's just one of those things where like on a social media, this is just me being, I guess, maybe cocky and all this other stuff. I'm funny, Josh.
You're very funny.
And
That's
then
not
I
cocky.
look at certain people and I'll be like, how'd y'all get so far so fast? Like, how did you get to open up for? What shows are you all doing to be doing what you all are doing? I remember writing that joke for you. I remember helping you with this thing and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, God, am I not supposed to be doing this? So I will have those type of moments. But then I talk to myself about just, because one of my favorite books is The Alchemist. And I'll talk about like, everybody has their own journey, Willie. You have something else in store, Willie. And da-da-da-da-da. You know, I talk myself out of it, but yeah.
Yeah. I think a lot about it. What is it in that book? Everyone has their own personal legend.
Yeah.
I love that. And then my last question, the final question of the podcast. Do you have a favorite tea?
Lavender Honey is my favorite tea. I love a good lavender. One, I just like the smell of it.
Yeah.
Like I probably have this one tea at my place that I've had for years that I refuse to drink just because. And the crazy thing is, it's from David's Tea, and I can go buy some more, but I refuse to because I just like smelling this particular lavender. I've always loved the lavender. Like my bath salts are lavender. My hand washes are lavender. I love lavender.
I do too.
Yeah.
Willie, it was so great to have you. You feel good?
I feel amazing. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being on. Willie Macc, everybody. Willie Macc.
With 2 C's.
That was Willie Macc. You can follow Willie on Instagram and TikTok at Willie Macc. You can follow him on Twitter at Funny Willie Macc. Watch Mac Boys Properties on HGTV and go subscribe to his podcast, Afro Noodles. Steve Conversations is produced and edited by Lucas Marshka. Our theme song and additional music are by Oliver Hymack. Our cover art was done by Neil Fraser with photography by Matt Mazisco. Social media by Dia Villegas. Please write a review and rate our podcast on Apple Podcasts and wherever else you can. You can send any questions, comments, newly friend game suggestions, or tea suggestions to steepcombos@gmail.com or tweet us at steepcombos. I'm Josh Lanzette, and you can follow me on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook at Josh Lanzette. We'll be back next week, so until then, happy steeping.